Chicago, Illinois, April 1961. The city is loud with the particular energy of a new decade, a new president, and a country still deciding what it wants to be. Inside the McCormick Place Convention Center, the air smells of cigarette smoke and shoe polish. The corridors are crowded with men in dark suits, earpieces, eyes that never fully rest. It is a routine security deployment, the kind that happens whenever the President of the United States travels beyond the iron geometry of Washington, D.C. Standing at the door of a men's restroom on the second floor, at approximately 2:14 in the afternoon, is a 26-year-old man named Abraham Bolden. He is dressed in the same dark suit as the other agents. He carries the same credentials. He has undergone the same training. There is, however, one thing that sets him apart from every single man stationed in that building today, from every man who has ever stood guard over a sitting American president. Abraham Bolden is black. He is an Illinois state trooper, recently transferred, still finding his footing in a world that was not built with him in mind. The assignment is unglamorous, a bathroom door. But Bolden is a professional. He stands straight, he watches the corridor, he does his job. Then, at 2:17 p.m., John Fitzgerald Kennedy walks toward him. The 35th President of the United States stops. He looks at Bolden directly, not through him, not past him, the way powerful men so often look at people they consider furniture. He looks at him. And then he asks a question. Has there ever been a Negro Secret Service agent on White House detail in Washington, D.C.? Bolden says, "No, sir." Kennedy smiles. It is the smile everyone recognizes from the photographs, but up close, in a convention center hallway in Chicago, it is something else. It is deliberate. Would you like to be the first? 2 months later, in the summer of 1961, Abraham Bolden drives into Washington, D.C. and parks near the White House for the first time as a member of its protective detail. He is 31 days shy of his 27th birthday. Kennedy introduces him to the assembled agents with 5 words that are meant as a compliment, as history, as recognition. Gentlemen, meet the Jackie Robinson of the Secret Service. It should be the proudest moment of Abraham Bolden's life. It is not. Because what Bolden finds inside the machinery of presidential protection over the following weeks and months does not look like the republic he swore to defend. It looks like a gentleman's club with loaded weapons, where the rules are enforced selectively, where the culture of the detail has calcified into something dangerous, and where a young black agent from Illinois asking the wrong questions is, from the very first day, considered the problem. White agents refuse to work alongside him. The slurs are not muttered quietly. They are said directly, sometimes to his face, sometimes just loud enough to carry. One senior agent makes the department's mood perfectly clear. We don't need any of your kind on this detail. Bolden files it away. He is here for the president, not for the comfort of men who resent him. But the racism, as corrosive as it is not the thing that terrifies him. What terrifies him is the negligence. Agents are drinking on duty. Not socially, not occasionally, but regularly and heavily. They arrive to security deployments visibly impaired. They cut corners. They leave gaps in coverage that a man with bad intentions could walk through without breaking stride. The job, for many of them, has become a social status rather than a responsibility. They are protecting the leader of the free world the way someone protects a valuable piece of furniture, with habit rather than vigilance. Bolden reports what he sees. He documents it. He raises it with supervisors. He makes clear that agents who cannot react at full capacity in an emergency are not just a professional embarrassment. They are a mortal danger to the man they have been assigned to keep alive. He is told to stop causing trouble. So Abraham Bolden keeps his head down, and he watches and he waits, and the president goes on living, and the detail goes on drinking, and the summer of 1961 becomes 1962, and 1962 moves through its months, through the Cuban Missile Crisis and the March on Washington, and the slow grinding machinery of a country trying to change. By October of 1963, Bolden has been reassigned. He is no longer on White House detail. He has been moved to the Chicago Secret Service office working counterfeiting cases. Routine work, away from Washington, away from the men who despised him. It is October 30th, 1963, a Wednesday late afternoon in the Federal Building on South Dearborn Street, when the teletype comes in. It is marked urgent. It is marked classified. It describes a plot to assassinate President Kennedy in the city of Chicago. 4 men, Cuban exiles, anti-Castro militants who have not forgiven the administration for what happened at the Bay of Pigs. High-powered rifles, telescopic sights. The target date, November 2nd, 1963. The location, the motorcade route from O'Hare Airport into the downtown along the Northwest Expressway, past the kind of tall buildings that men with scoped rifles and patience dream about. Kennedy is scheduled to attend the Army Air Force football game at Soldier Field. The route has been published in the Chicago Tribune. Anyone who wants to know where the president's limousine will be and at what time can find out by reading the morning paper. The Chicago Secret Service office goes into emergency deployment. Every available agent is mobilized. They have 72 hours. On October 31st, a landlady on the north side calls the Chicago Police Department. She has rented a room to 4 men. When she entered to clean, she found something that made her hands stop working for a moment before she could reach for the telephone. Automatic rifles with telescopic sights spread across the bed. A map of the city. On the map, a route marked in pen. The route Kennedy's motorcade will take in 2 days. Police raid the room. The rifles are there. The map is there. The men are gone. The second name to surface is Thomas Vallee. He is a former Marine, an expert marksman, a man with documented extremist views and a documented hostility toward John Kennedy. Investigators discover that Vallee has requested time off from work on November 2nd. They discover that he works in a warehouse on the Northwest Expressway. They pull the address and they walk to the window on the upper floor, and they look down, and there, in the distance, is the road where the president's car will pass. In Vallee's vehicle, when they find it, an M1 rifle, a handgun, and 3,000 rounds of ammunition. The echo of this moment will not be heard for years. The details, an ex-Marine, a skilled shooter, a building overlooking the motorcade route, a scoped weapon, a president coming through, these details are not yet a pattern. Not yet. That comes later. November the 2nd, 1963, 9:01 in the morning. Chicago O'Hare Airport is preparing for a presidential arrival that will not happen. Thomas Vallee is taken off the street on a minor traffic pretext. The 4 Cuban gunmen are still unaccounted for, still somewhere in the city, still armed. The special agent in charge of the Chicago field office gets the White House on the telephone and delivers a message with no diplomatic cushioning. The president's life is in grave danger. Cancel the trip. At the last minute, the White House announces that the president will not be traveling to Chicago. He has a cold, the statement says. There is an urgent situation developing in Vietnam requiring his attention. The Army Air Force game is played without him. The crowd at Soldier Field looks up at the sky and wonders. The press files the story as a routine scheduling change. Abraham Bolden knows what the story actually is. 20 days pass. November 22nd, 1963. Dallas, Texas. 12:30 in the afternoon, Central Standard Time. Abraham Bolden is in the Chicago Federal Building when the news comes across. He's standing near a radio. He hears the words before he can process them, the way you hear words in a nightmare before you understand that you are asleep. President Kennedy has been shot. Bolden grabs the nearest agent and asks one question. Did the Chicago information go to Dallas? Did the Dallas field office receive the FBI teletype about the assassination plot? Did they know about Vallee? Did they know about the Cuban team? Did anyone think to say, "We stopped one of these 3 weeks ago, watch for the pattern"? The answer is no. The information was not relayed. The pattern was not communicated. The men running the protective detail in Dealey Plaza had no knowledge that a nearly identical operation had been neutralized in Chicago less than a month earlier. And as the television coverage of Dallas begins to resolve into specifics, as the name Lee Harvey Oswald surfaces and the details accumulate, Abraham Bolden feels something cold move through him that has nothing to do with the November air outside the federal building windows. Former Marine. Worked in a building overlooking the motorcade route. Shot the president with a scoped rifle. Communist sympathizer, they are saying, which is different from anti-Castro Cuban exile, but the operational architecture is the same. Vallee, Oswald, the same blueprint, 3 weeks apart. 2 cities. Dallas was not the beginning. Dallas was the contingency. The Warren Commission assembles in Washington, D.C. in the months that follow. It takes testimony. It examines evidence. It builds toward the conclusion that will become official history. Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. No conspiracy, no prior attempts, no pattern. The Chicago plot of November 2, 1963 does not appear in the Warren report. The Commission does not know it happened. The FBI teletype, the landlady, the rifles on the bed, Thomas Vallee in his warehouse with 3,000 rounds of ammunition. None of it surfaces in the most comprehensive investigation of the Kennedy assassination ever officially conducted. In May of 1964, Abraham Bolden is in Washington attending a Secret Service training program. He picks up a telephone in the White House and he calls J. Lee Rankin, chief counsel to the Warren Commission. He says that he has critical information about a prior assassination attempt, information that may demonstrate the existence of a conspiracy. Rankin agrees to meet with him. It is the phone call that destroys Abraham Bolden's life. The same day he makes that call, he is pulled from his training class. Emergency in Chicago, he is told. You need to return immediately. On the plane back to O'Hare, he is seated between 2 men who are not colleagues. They are escorts. They do not explain themselves. At the airport, he is driven not to his office but to the United States Attorney's building on South Dearborn. He asks to call his wife. He is refused. Inside, Justice Department officials interrogate him and then inform him that he is under arrest. The charge: accepting a $50,000 bribe from a counterfeiter in exchange for confidential government files. Bolden has never accepted a bribe in his life. He has never sold a file. He has spent his career trying to protect a man that the people around him could not be bothered to protect adequately. And now he is sitting in a federal building in Chicago, arrested, separated from his family, his career ending in real time. The prosecution's witnesses are a convicted counterfeiter named Joseph Spagnoli and a man named Frank Jones. Both testify that Bolden solicited money. Both testify with the practiced specificity of men who have told a story many times before, settling on its final form. Bolden's defense is 4 words: I was framed. He tells anyone who will listen that the counterfeiter was being used by organized crime figures and government officials to destroy his credibility before he could carry his information to the Warren Commission. He says the timing is not a coincidence. He says that a man who calls the Commission's chief counsel on a Monday and is arrested on the same Monday is not the victim of an unlucky week. The jury convicts him. He is sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. He serves 3. And then, years later, the truth begins to emerge in pieces, the way buried things always do. Joseph Spagnoli admits under oath that he fabricated his testimony. He says he was pressured by government officials and by men with organized crime connections to provide a story that would eliminate Abraham Bolden as a credible witness. Frank Jones recants as well. Both men lied. Both men were used. By the time these admissions surface, Abraham Bolden has already served his sentence. His career in federal law enforcement is over. His reputation has been dismantled in a federal courtroom by paid witnesses who later admitted they were lying. His warnings about the drunken agents, about the security failures, about the Chicago plot, about the pattern that connected Vallee to Oswald, have been buried under the weight of a conviction that was constructed specifically to bury them. The men who decided that Abraham Bolden needed to be silenced understood something fundamental. A whistleblower in prison is no longer a whistleblower. He is a convicted felon. His testimony carries no weight. His documents carry no weight. His memory of a landlady on the north side and rifles spread across a bed and a map with a motorcade route marked in pen. None of it carries any weight at all. For decades, Bolden fights. He writes. He testifies where he is allowed to testify. In 1978, the House Select Committee on Assassinations confirmed significant failures within the Secret Service protective detail. The committee cannot pursue the Chicago plot directly because the Secret Service records from that period have been destroyed. Gone. The paper trail that would corroborate everything Bolden has been saying since 1964 has been eliminated. In 2022, President Joseph Biden grants Abraham Bolden a full and unconditional pardon. Bolden is 87 years old. In early 2025, at the age of 90, Abraham Bolden sits before a congressional committee and describes, in the careful and patient language of a man who has been telling the same true story for 60 years, what he saw in the White House in 1961. What he investigated in Chicago in October of 1963, what was done to him in May of 1964. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna apologizes on behalf of the United States government and the United States Secret Service. The apology is real. The damage is permanent. Abraham Bolden tried to save John Kennedy. He documented the security failures that made the president vulnerable. He investigated an assassination attempt that was nearly successful 3 weeks before Dallas. He picked up a telephone and tried to make sure the people investigating the murder of the 35th president had all the information they needed to understand what happened. And the system that was supposed to protect the president, the same system that had been drinking on duty and cutting corners and calling Bolden slurs in the White House corridors, turned around and destroyed him. Not because he was wrong, because he was right. And being right was the most dangerous thing he could have been. If the Chicago information had reached Dallas, the pattern would have been visible. If Bolden had been allowed to testify before the Warren Commission, the investigation would have been forced to grapple with evidence of prior attempts, of operational similarities, of a methodology that appeared twice in 30 days in 2 American cities. If the counterfeiting charge had fallen apart in 1964, the way it eventually fell apart in the years that followed, history would have been required to accommodate a witness it could not dismiss. Instead, Dallas remains singular. Oswald remains alone. The Warren report remains the official record. And Abraham Bolden remains even now a name that most Americans have never heard. He is 90 years old. He has been telling the truth for 6 decades. The truth has not changed. It has only waited, the way buried things wait, for someone to finally dig.